It could be argued that with the Hyundai Palisade over the past 5 years or so, it was one of the best values you could find in the three-row crossover market. But Hyundai wasn't satisfied with any of that, and they've now given you an all-new, much larger and better-looking Hyundai Palisade for 2026. In today's video, we're going to check out what this model has to offer us. We're going to check out the exterior, the interior, take it out for a quick test drive, and see why, if you're looking at buying a luxurious three-row crossover, but you don't want to spend the luxury price of $70,000, $80,000, possibly $100,000, then maybe taking a look at the Hyundai Palisade might be a great decision. Now, before we get in this video, I want to give a huge shout and thank you to Mcgovern Hyundai of Danvers in Danvers, Massachusetts, for letting come down here to check out the all-new Hyundai Palisade. Their link will be in the description below, so you can check out their extensive Hyundai inventory. So as always, let's begin with that pricing. For the 2026 Hyundai Palisade Calligraphy we have today, you're looking at a starting cost of just under $60,000 with taxes and fees included. That is huge for a top trim in 2025 in a very competitive and also oversaturated market. You're looking for a vehicle that's going to be very well equipped, luxurious, and also comfortable for you and your family. And Hyundai's giving you a relatively affordable product here that's even better than last generation, if that's even possible. Now, as you can tell for the exterior, and we'll find out for the interior, everything is new from the ground up. It's longer, it's wider, it's sleeker, it's more futuristic. But as you make your way towards the front fascia, it's also somewhat retro-like or even EV-like in that way. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that Hyundai is inspired by mid-century modern styling. And you kind of see that here with the front fascia, with the large front grille. I mean, not a lot of manufacturers use these large grills here like they did way back in the 60s and 70s. But what I also love too is that you're going to have some of this brushed aluminum accent look and gloss black trim that seamlessly makes its way into that front fascia, outlining that huge front grille, outlining the LED daytime running lights. Then you have the satin chrome look, which from far away doesn't look functional, but it functions as your parking lights, it functions as your turn signals. It looks really, really cool what Hyundai has done here. And I think that that type of styling, that type of substance to the front fascia is going to mean a lot to many consumers. Then as you make your way towards the lower portion of the front bumper, you're going to have the brushed aluminum accents once again with gloss black trim. So no plastic cladding, no cheap look here for this model. That is great to see. Then as you make your way over to the side profile, you are going to have a full paint finish. That is one thing I want to point out here with the Calligraphy. This is solely going to be a luxurious experience. Now, if you do want to go off-road, Hyundai is offering an XRT trim for 2026, which is all new for this model. Now, by going with the Calligraphy, you are going to have 21-inch alloy wheels. I know a lot of you are going to be complaining about that because 21-inch wheels will create a bit more road noise and harshness to the ride quality, but we'll find out later on during that test drive. It's also from here with that front fender design. You have the squared off bylines, and for some vehicles it doesn't look good, but I think for Hyundai they're making it work, and it looks very, very aggressive here as well. Now, you will have body color match side mirror caps, which are power folding, by the way, turn signal indicators, and also blind spot detection for added safety. And up top, you are going to have the brushed aluminum accents once again for your roof rails. Then as you make your way around to the back, the first thing I want to point out here is this satin chrome or brushed aluminum accent here for the C-pillars. A lot of manufacturers do not go with this look. They will give you a lot of gloss black trim in the 2020s, but that's actually rather refreshing. Now, you will have LED taillights in the same design you're going to have up front, so I do like that continuity here to this model. You're going to have the Palisade badge being written out on the tailgate like we saw last generation in a trendy look. And then the one thing I want to point out here is the fact you are going to have somewhat of a sloping roofline and sloping window. That's becoming a new trend here in the automotive industry, giving you somewhat of an EV look. We saw it with the Cadillac Escalade IQ, and I like that styling. It doesn't look sportback-ish, it doesn't look sporty, but it gives you some sense of luxury to this model. Then for the lower portion of the rear bumper, you're going to have the gloss black trim once again and the satin chrome accents, give you a nice two-tone look to this model. Also, no visible exhaust outlets, which isn't too much of a surprise here for this vehicle, but I personally think that the Hyundai Palisade for 2026 is one sleek-looking three-row SUV. But let me know what you think in the comment section below. Powering our 2026 Hyundai Palisade is going to be a 3.5-liter naturally aspirated V6. You are going to have 287 horsepower and 260 pound power-feet of torque. It is paired with an 8-speed automatic transmission. Keep in mind you can't go with front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive for this generation, but I think for a lot of you, all-wheel drive will make the most sense. Also, of course, keep in mind here that with the Palisade, you are going to have a towing capacity of 5,000 pounds. This might be a good adventure vehicle for a lot of you who do go on frequent road trips. Now, you can go with a 2.5-liter turbocharged hybrid powertrain that is coming very soon. That will give you 329 horsepower and 339 pound-feet of torque. But if you're just looking for this V6, this might be a great choice in this market with so many manufacturers dropping the V6 for a Turbo 4. However, for a lot of you, it's going to come down to that fuel economy, which might affect which trim you go with. So with the V6, you are going to receive 18 miles per gallon in the city and 24 miles per gallon on the highway, which is pretty standard for a vehicle with this size of engine under the hood. But I think that if you're looking for a fun daily driver, giving you that old school 3-year-old crossover experience, go with the 3.5. Hopping inside the all-new 2026 Hyundai Palisade, you're greeted by, in my opinion, one of the best-looking interiors in its class, especially for a vehicle coming in under $60,000. And this is a top trim. Now, I would like to see what a mid-tier or base model is going to give us for the Palisade for 2026. But in the meantime, though, for first impressions, this is huge. In my opinion, Hyundai is setting the tone, but also raising the bar in the 3-year-old crossover market, especially under 60 grand. Now, just like we saw for the exterior, the interior is inspired by mid-century modern, and you really see that. This is a unique experience. You see that with the wide dashboard design here. That's just straight from one side to the other side, but then also the swooping angles and the swooping lines. This is really cool. This is retro in a way in a modern age. I really dig it. Now with the seats though, you are going to have power adjustable heated and ventilated Napa leather seats for both the driver and passenger. With the driver's side having 2-position memory for added convenience, and the passenger side is going to have a relaxation mode where that seat fully reclines. So on those longer road trips, when you're driving 3, 4, 5 hours or going cross country, your passenger can just relax, possibly even fall asleep, and have no cares in the world. In regards to the comfort for these seats, they're plush, they're supportive, and they do mimic the overall driving experience for this model. So really great to see here. Now on top of this, with the calligraphy, you are going to have this suede or Alcantara headliner, which again sets a tone for this model. Then as you take a look at what you have in front of you, I think it's quite inspiring. Even though I'm not big on tech right now, what Hyundai is giving us is a nice blend of an analog layout and an old school layout with that mid-century modern, while also having that technology being integrated into the dashboard very seamlessly. Unlike most manufacturers who stick an infotainment system on top of the dashboard, Hyundai didn't do that. Now, one thing I will say though with this technology is that it's very similar to the Kia lineup right now for 2026 models. Now, starting off with the steering wheel before we get into that digital gauge cluster, nice leather wrap steering wheel, feels really nice in the hands. No aggressive 10 and 2 or firm 9 and 3 grips, but that's perfectly okay. You're going to have paddle shifters to rotate the gears yourself. Now on the left side of the steering wheel, you'll be able to customize what you see in front of you by using the buttons here, and it's actually very straightforward, very similar to that new Kia Sportage I had experienced a couple of months ago. Now from here, you can scroll through a variety of information such as your onboard compass and turn-by-turn navigation, your safety systems, your tire pressure monitoring system, also torque distribution, and then obviously your fuel economy statistics as well. Very straightforward. Now also from this screen, you'll be able to adjust your drive mode selector. So you are going to have both drive and terrain for eco, normal, sport, and my drive, and then terrain, snow, mud, and sand. Do I think I'm going to be going off-road here with this model? Probably not, but during the winter with the all-wheel drive system, you're going to have that capability here. Then as you take a look at the infotainment system, you are going to have wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto compatibility. There will be a wireless phone charging pad on the center console. We'll talk about that later on. You're also going to have onboard navigation. Now, this screen is laid out exactly what we have found in Kia products, so I'm not going to dive too deep into this today, but I do think the resolution is a bit better. Also, one key highlight here for this infotainment system is that you are going to have a built-in dash cam, which is really great to see. Now, when you do place the calligraphy in reverse, you are going to have a variety of camera angles to choose from, such as a front-facing camera with trajectory, a rear backup camera with trajectory, But in my opinion, I love the 360-degree view as well. We're seeing a lot of this now in the automotive industry, around $60,000, but it's great to see for a vehicle of this size. The main highlight here for the 2026 Palisade, in my opinion, is the fact you're still going to have physical buttons and dials on the dashboard. So refreshing to see. So from left to right, you're going to have your auto vehicle hold, your drive mode selector, and a toggle that will help you scroll through those different drive modes. Then you're going to find your volume and tuning dials here, but then physical buttons for home, map, search, media, and then seek and track. So much like we saw last generation, which I think is a great carryover from that prior model year. And then to the far right will be your hill descent control, your park assist features, and camera systems. Now, the one thing that will create a bit of a learning curve here is that beneath all of that, you're going to have touch-sensitive icons for your climate control. So for your dual-zone climate control up front, you're going to have physical dials there, but also your touch-sensitive icons for your heated and ventilated seats, heated steering wheel, AC, front and rear defrosters, fan speed, and fan direction. Very straightforward. As we continue on towards the center console, this is very EV-like. You don't see a lot of this out of gas-powered models, but there is a nice compartment for a bag or two. You're going to find a 12-volt outlet as well. Then for the center console itself, here you're going to have 3 USB-C inputs, 2 cup holders, your wireless phone charging pad, so everything is within arm's reach. But one thing that is missing, though, is that you're not going to have your gear selector here. That'll be on a stock on the steering wheel, so that will create a bit of a learning curve. Then for the center console itself, you're going to have enough room for a smartphone, wallet, or other tech gadgets. It's not going to be super deep here compared to some other vehicles in this segment, but enough room to store all the essential items. And then to round out the front seating area, above will be a dual pane moonroof, which brings in a lot of natural light to the interior, but then also a digital rear view mirror, giving you better visibility when backing out of tight spots or parking in a garage. Now for passengers in the second row with the calligraphy, it's the amenities, it's the creature comforts, it's the fact that you can just relax and recline in this vehicle and have no cares in the world, just like that front passenger. But what you are going to have here, though, is 42.5 inches of legroom, which is class leading. But it gets even better because you are going to have heated and ventilated captain chairs and single zone climate control. Those buttons will be found up top, so that way they're out of sight and out of mind. But with these seats, they're comfortable, just like we saw up front, but better yet, they're power adjustable. That is right, you can recline. You can also move them forwards and backwards to maximize that legroom. This is so great to see for a vehicle that's not going to be considered a luxury 3-row crossover because it's still from a mainstream brand. Now in front of me, this seat is adjusted most of the way back. It's also somewhat on a recline, and I have plenty of legroom here. So I don't think I have any issues if you're going to have taller passengers sit in the second row or smaller kids. It's going to be really great here. Now, in front of you will be a 3-pronged outlet because the USB-C outlets are going to be found on the sides of the front seats. And then just like we saw with other vehicles from the Hyundai Kia brand, you are going to have a center storage compartment in front of you as well. That way you can store some smartphones or other smaller tech gadgets. And then finally for passengers in the third row, they're going to receive right on 31.5 inches of legroom. And better yet, they will have the ability to move their seats backwards and forwards to maximize legroom. And I like the fact that you can really relax in this vehicle too, even for the third row. Now, this is going to be a little bit better than, say, a Honda Pilot and Mazda CX-90, but this is not going to be comparable to, say, a Chevrolet Tahoe or other body-on-frame SUVs, so temper your expectations. But I do think you can have smaller kids back here very comfortably. Also, these seats are adjusted all the way back, so if the second row passengers would just be a little kinder to the people in the third row, I think everyone will be happy in this vehicle for 2026. Now, also back here, you will have heated seats as well, so everyone should be nice and warm during those winter months. And then lastly, you will have a USB-C outlet on both sides of the third row and 2 cup holders, so that way they can charge up their smartphones while also having their favorite drinks while they're on those longer road trips. Returning to the rear fascia for the 2026 Hyundai Palisade to take a look at the cargo area. Obviously with the calligraphy, you are going to receive a power liftgate. And inside, behind the third row seats, you're looking at right around 19.5 cubic feet of room. As you guys know, I like seeing 20 cubic feet or more. And this does surprise me because Hyundai does pride themselves on class-leading practicality and interior space, and that is not going to be the case here for the 2026 Palisade. But I was able to fit all my camera gear today, so I have 3 bags of camera gear, a gimbal box, and a tripod. So I do think if you are going on a grocery run or running some errands and you have kids in the second and third row, you should be able to fit all your groceries and items back here with limited issues. Now, with the third row seats folded, you're looking at right around 46 cubic feet of room, which then falls right in line with a lot of 3-row SUVs in this market. If you're only using this vehicle as a 2-row two-row crossover, this is going to be a nice upgrade over that Tucson and Santa Fe. So if you're looking for a premium vehicle under $60,000, you're going to have a lot of practicality here in that regard. And then finally, with the second row seats folded, you're looking at right around 87.5 cubic feet of room. Again, close to the top in this market. But last, and I think probably more importantly here, especially for those of you who are constantly on the go and also have kids as well, on the left side of the cargo area will be a layout of buttons here. That way you can conveniently lower the second and third row seats, so that way you're not wasting time or energy having to manually lower and raise them. That is really cool. Again, a nice touch of luxury here for this model. What I'm about to say here for the 2026 Hyundai Palisade Calligraphy might sound like I'm contradicting myself, but there is a lot to digest here for this new generation, and more specifically, this trim. The Calligraphy, in my mind, is in a league of its own. It's difficult to compare this to a Honda Pilot, Toyota Grand Highlander, Mazda CX-90, and other three-row crossovers from mainstream manufacturers under $60,000. It feels too smooth, it feels too refined, it's too comfortable and too luxurious for a vehicle coming in at $60,000. In fact, I would say it embarrasses a lot of its mainstream rivals. Its mannerisms are very similar to a $70,000 or $80,000 BMW, Audi, or Mercedes-Benz. However, when it comes to the driving experience, when it comes to its performance, it leaves a lot more to be desired. And in fact, it's somewhat of a disappointment with this naturally aspirated V6. Typically, I would say go V6. V6 is better than a Turbo 4. I'm not quite sold on that idea for this particular model. In fact, I would wait for the hybrid with a turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. For one, you get better fuel efficiency, but I think you're going to get far better performance in a straight line, and it's not going to feel like it's lagging in any way, shape, or form. Yes, this V6 is great, right? You'd like to have a larger powertrain for a vehicle in this market, and sometimes a Turbo 4 doesn't feel like enough to propel an SUV of this size and of its weight. But this V6 isn't really doing that either for this particular model, and I'm going to demonstrate that in a minute here as I get onto this nice winding back road. Now, it's quiet. That's one thing I really like here. This is a very refined, quiet, and somewhat of an affordable GV80 experience, and that's what makes it such a great buy. However, it's going to be the performance here that might make you think otherwise. So, let's get on this road here. I'm in sport mode. On the brakes, not too bad here. And let's punch it. So there's a sense of hesitation here when you do accelerate off the line, which is a bit of a surprise for a naturally aspirated V6. It's almost like it has the turbo lag here for this model, but you have to get really deep into the throttle to get this thing moving, which is a bit of a surprise compared to the inline 6 and the Mazda CX-90 and even the Honda Pilot. The Honda Pilot is not a slow or lethargic SUV by any stretch of the imagination. The Hyundai Palisade, though, does feel lethargic. It does feel slow, and that to me is a huge surprise for this vehicle. Now, if you can look past all of that, though, you're going to find a lot of positives. For one, you're going to get an SUV that feels very luxurious, very upscale, and refined for an SUV coming in at $60,000. Also, I think you are going to love the safety features and technology. There's a lot of creature comforts and amenities that makes up for the straight line speed. But even when it comes to the handling, and when it comes to steering input, when it comes to being on a winding back road, you really feel the weight here. It does feel top heavy, and there really isn't a sense of connectivity to the road. And I'm not really surprised by that, nor am I disappointed, because this is going to be a luxury only SUV, and the suspension is tuned for that. But there's really not a sense of agility. There's no maneuverability here with this model. Even though when you are just driving around the city and suburbs, I think it can get out of its own way. There is no learning curve whatsoever, even though it is about 2 inches longer and a bit wider than last generation. I think you're going to find yourself right at home here with this model. It's just that, unlike a lot of its competitors, it doesn't feel as sporty or as agile, and that is one takeaway here for this model. Now, even in sport mode, and when you are cruising around here, Steering doesn't really give you a lot of weight or feel. There is no feedback here with the Palisade, which when you take a look at what the Palisade has been offering us for the last 5 years, I don't think that's what buyers are looking for. So Hyundai has designed and engineered this vehicle to be a nice upgrade over most of their buyers' current Palisades, which is why I think a lot of people will upgrade to this new model and new generation, and they won't leave the Hyundai brand. But I think for those of you who are on the fence, who have never owned a Hyundai Palisade, and you're looking for a large 3-row crossover and SUV, just keep in mind here that yes, you're going to get a very practical SUV, one that gives you class-leading interior space, but then you're sacrificing it on the other end when it comes to performance. So that is one thing I would be, hesitant on, and why I would say wait for that hybrid 4-cylinder to make its way into this vehicle and for that to arrive at dealers. I think that would be the wiser choice here for 2026. But with all that being said and going over the negatives to the driving experience, where the Hyundai Palisade is most certainly going to impress, and in my mind is at its best in this segment, is with the on-road comfort. Even with the 21-inch wheels, you go over bumps and imperfections and you hardly feel them. I think this is one of the softest crossovers you can buy under $60,000, which is why I say it has the mannerisms and on-road driving experience of a luxury SUV priced between $80,000 and $90,000. It just has those mannerisms that you don't typically find from mainstream manufacturers. It's just that performance-wise, this is not going to outclass a Mazda CX-90. I don't even think it outclasses a Honda Pilot either. As a grocery getter and family hauler, I don't think there's anything better out there in this market. I really don't. When you just take a look at the technology, the comfort, the ride quality, this is enough to outweigh the cons. The pros most certainly outweigh the cons, and the pricing is the icing on the cake. To get all this under $60,000, to have an SUV that gives you a unique experience, this mid-century modern styling, that is going to be the lasting impression here. It really is. And best of all, you're going to have options with the powertrain. So even though I think there's some issues with this naturally aspirated V6 for an SUV of this size and of its weight, just wait for the Turbo 4. Just wait for that hybrid. And I think that will most certainly fix all the issues that I'm experiencing today with this V6. But either way, though, I think if you're looking for a 3-row crossover right now in this market and you want a luxury experience, that's where I think the Hyundai Palisade is untouchable right now under 60 grand. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this quick review for the 2026 Hyundai Palisade Calligraphy. If you did, please like, comment, share, and subscribe for more, and I will see you guys next time.